up, everybody? Sensei Grizzly, Jiu-Jitsu. I'm here for the February 2019 episode of Ask the Grizzly. So the question was sent in asking about some more exotic things you can do to defend yourself when you're in side control positions, other than just your traditional escapes. So there's a couple things from my personal arsenal that I wanted to show. But before I even get into any of that, I still want to touch on what I feel like is the highest percentage fundamental, because pieces of this get used to transition into some of these more high-level or exotic transitions. Okay, so Drew's going to get me in the side control position. All right, so the first thing I got to think about is I have to work on creating my frame. And just like Professor Joe's rules for being on bottom, one of the first things I got to do is I got to get his head offline. So as I get my elbows in and I shove his head offline, I'm starting to get in my levels of defense. I'm getting my 3s and my 4s back, okay? And this is what gives me the space with which to shrimp and get my shoulder to the mat. So if you come around to this side, one of the most often neglected components of self-defense is getting your shoulder to the ground. When my shoulder's to the ground, even if he kind of closes off some of the space, I still have room to maneuver my knees, to start getting my knees between me and him so I can start to guard up and defend. Okay? So, rule number 1, this is just for your standard side control. I'm going to get his head offline. Rule number 2, I start thinking about my levels of defense, right? Rule number 3, use the appropriate snake. So I'm using my snake, the one-sided snake in this case, and now I'm varying up all these different levels of defense so I can start to defend myself and escape the side control position. So that's the fundamental. So, applying some of this to some more exotic defenses, okay? So, one that I have a lot of success with, people think that it's just because I'm a big, strong guy, but Drew's not much smaller than me. I mean, he's maybe giving up 10 pounds, okay? I'm still shoving his head offline, still got my hand in the hip, still using the snake to get to my shoulder, but as he goes to drive back into me, I'm hooking his head and weaving this hand under his armpit. I may even rotate and get some fabric for some control, or just grab the tricep. Now, as he continues to drive to flatten me out, I roll on my shoulders and bridge and finish in a top crucifix position. What I'm doing here by getting onto my shoulder is I'm forcing him, when he tries to push to flatten me back out, to throw his center of gravity too far over my hips as a pivot point. So when he pushes and now I've got his head down, he doesn't have a whole lot of choice but to roll with this. And I've got a neck crank here, or I can pass to north-south choke there. There's not really a fancy name for this. I think we just call it the big dump. Some people have issue with that terminology, but it's because you're dumping. All right. Another, I wouldn't call it a trick move, but so Drew attempts to side control me, and one of the things I'm starting to do is I'm blocking this hand. Okay? Traditionally, like, the people either want to hook the head here, or they'll have the hook here digging in. Okay? And they'll drop this hip to the ground so that I've got no way of defending. Okay? But a lot of times how I'm going to do this is as he is clearing my legs to get into side control, I'm already trapping this hand so he can't hook me. So when he goes to push and resist, he gives me this loop with which to get what is called a Kimura trap. So you have to be careful when you're executing this because you can seriously injure a guy. But I can either initiate this on my own or I can wait for him to push into me. But I'm gonna roll on my shoulders using that arm as a lever. You see where I kind of let off so I didn't snap it. And then I finish with a Kimura from the top position. Kimura trap. So again, he's kind of clearing my knees and I'm already on my hip, kind of shrimping my hips back. Maybe he's controlling my leg, trying to like cradle me, maybe he's not. But absolutely I cannot let him close this space up and I'm getting this trap. Okay, so now, as he may hide his hand, trying to keep me from getting it. It doesn't really help him either way. But as he pushes to try to get me flat, I roll on my shoulders using the key lock as a lever, and then I finish with the Kimura from the top position. So far you have your basic shrimp escape, and you can see where the fundamentals of getting to my shoulder and creating that space so that he has to roll over my center of gravity gets used so far through all of these other moves. So you got your traditional shrimp, you've got your Kimura trap, and then you have the big side headlock reversal, or the dump as we call it. The final thing I'm going to show, just because it's fresh in my brain, it's one of Professor Maynard's techniques, is a guy tries to set me up for paintbrush here on this side. So he's here. One of the things I have to do is I can't be flat on my back. If I'm flat on my back, he's going to finish me. I have to get to my shoulder to take just enough slack off here. I'm going to brace with my face, trap his knuckles, and then finish with the reverse wrist lock. So even if he starts to fully set it up, like he's got his paintbrush on, go ahead and loop your other hand through. That almost makes it worse because he's now, that other hand is stuck. He's got no way of defending. Okay, so I've had a degree of success with this. It's definitely a last-ditch effort move to kind of keep a guy from taking your shoulder out of the socket, but I have had some success with it. Once more, so he's attempting to paintbrush me. I'm already on my shoulder. I'm trapping his fingers with my hand, bracing his elbow against my neck, and pulling him into the reverse wrist lock. So just as a review, remember you have to have your fundamentals. You have to get the head offline. You have to use your levels of defense. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, I get the head offline, using my hands. I get to my number 5, my shoulder, and that allows me space with which to shrimp my knees. Okay, and then that enables me to reverse his attempts at pushing me flat, whether it's with a headlock or with a Kimura trap, okay? And in the final position, rolling to my number 5 to face the submission attempt puts enough slack in my shoulder that allows me to trap his hand and catch him with the reverse wrist lock to take the submission away from him. I'm Sensei Grizzly. This is Jiu-Jitsu from Team Jedi Mind Trick. This is your February edition 2019 of Ask the Grizzly. Send me your questions for next month.
Hey guys, Sensei Grizzly here. Very recently I was approached by the head coach of the U.S. team that will be representing the United States in the 2019 World All-Styles Championships to be held in Portugal a few months from now. I was asked to be a member of the team as the U.S. team's heavyweight submission grappler. I am requesting your support in raising the funds necessary for the registration of the tournament and the plane tickets needed to get me to this event. You'll see here after a few moments the link to the GoFundMe page, and all donations and well wishes would be much appreciated. And hopefully with your donations I'll be able to make everybody proud, bring home the gold for Team USA. Thank you in advance.